Welcome to Dairy Delivery by the Dairy Star. On today's episode, we have 5 conversations for you. We start with a barn fire in Ethan, South Dakota. The Gary and Amy Blazes' entire dairy barn was destroyed after a fire on May 1st. Our next conversation features a day in the life of the Fischer Valley Dairy as John Fischer hosted 300 elementary school students. Our third story takes us to the southern edge of Iowa as we visit with Rufus Musser III, the owner of Milton Creamery. Our fourth conversation has us back up in Minnesota where we talk to Joe Jams as they hosted the 5th grade class from Wilmar. And we wrap up today's episode with Brian Reisinger. Reisinger is the author of Land Rich, Cash Poor and was named the 2025 Book of the Year by the Farm Foundation. You're listening to Dairy Delivery. All dairy, all the time. We know farmers love the Dairy Star, but with the hustle of today's society, we wanted to bring you a new way to hear our stories. That's why we created the Dairy Delivery, a podcast from the Dairy Star. Join me, Dan Walker, along with Michelle Stengler, as we host this new podcast to highlight your stories and the work farmers are doing. The Dairy Delivery can be found on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. This bi-monthly podcast will feature all dairy, all the time, a Dairy Star staple. I'm Dan Walker.
And I'm Michelle Stengler, and we're your reporters with Dairy Star, bringing you the latest in the dairy industry, including hearing from farmers across the Midwest and beyond. Next few weeks, we are going to be celebrating June Dairy Month. Isn't it kind of crazy that we have a month to celebrate our state's dairy community and, of course, communities across different Midwestern states?
Yeah, it is a little bit. It was one of those that growing up, you always, obviously, with our backgrounds on dairy farms, like June is just always June Dairy Month. I never really thought of the origin until we started to have this conversation earlier off air, so I looked it up. Do you know when June Dairy Month started?
Is it early 1900s?
Depends on your definition of early, but yes, it was in 1937. The grocery organizations and the National Dairy Council used it to promote milk consumption and stabilize demand during the summer when cows were out on pasture and milk production hit its peak.
I know in July it's National Ice Cream Month, and then now it's May is Beef Month. And so just a lot of celebrations to think about where our food comes from and the producers behind it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the more important factors. I know we got a couple of those stories in this issue and then in this episode of people who are hosting people out on their farms and the importance of connecting society back with agriculture and then those producers.
It certainly reminds me of entertaining people, and I think a lot of these farms it can be a little stress to prepare for the event, but they enjoy having people to come out to their farm and kind of makes us think about some of the summer plans. I know you have a busy summer ahead with kids and with all the life balances.
Yeah, and say my son's finishing up 1st grade here in the next couple of weeks. He's super excited for it. I'm a little nervous for it because it's weird to know that in a couple months we got a 2nd grader. I know parents who have gone through this journey already can understand how quickly that time goes. You don't really notice it as you're growing up, but as you get to be a parent, it's just one right after the other. They keep going through. But yeah, right now we got him in t-ball, and I'm trying to help coach him with it. And I'm discovering that I struggle to find different ways of how to teach catch the ball. Like it's second nature, right? For people who have played baseball before and like worked through it and stuff like. So I've done the whole Instagram reels of like finding tips, sort of like you give the ball a high five, like below it, like you're shaking hands with it or something, like just different ways to do it. But as we break into small groups, I keep having to find different ways of trying to explain catch the ball, which seems like such a simple concept, but can be a little bit more difficult when you're still learning how to move your body in the right direction.
It makes me think about growing up on our family's dairy farm where we would oftentimes do our chores beforehand, and then my mom would drop me off for the practice and the warm up, and then we would have our game. My dad would come, and then we would come home, and then oftentimes have to do a chore still. So, I mean, sports are fun, but it's just the balance of like, okay, we got to do chores before or after. So, brings up some good memories to say the
Yep.
least.
Yeah, I'd say you get to learn time management at an early age, that's for sure, and how to break things down and you got your jobs that you got to do, your tasks and your list to get done. You got to figure out how to balance it around other activities. So
Yeah, well, over the past few weeks, we have chosen our Minnesota Dairy Goodwill Ambassador, those 10 finalists that will soon be Princess K, the Milky Way. That will be chosen come in August. And then we chose Alice in Dairyland here in Wisconsin. which is our state's agriculture ambassador. So those positions, many stories about that in our upcoming issue. Certainly cool to see a young woman pursuing opportunities to share the goodness of our state's, different states' agriculture communities.
Definitely, and say it's a great position to have out there to help people kind of get that background and more of a personal touch to agriculture and obviously industries that drive so much of the economy within Wisconsin and within Minnesota and Iowa. I know they got theirs coming up too at some point. So um, we got all sorts of them to be able to provide a good face and good PR to society to help understand what goes into agriculture.
Well, we've talked about Wisconsin and Minnesota. Should we get into today's conversation and start in South Dakota?
Yeah, let's do it.
Our first conversation here is from South Dakota. Our Jenna Buick spoke with Gary and Amy Blaze after a barn fire destroyed their barn May 1st. They talk about their reactions to seeing the smoke, how they tried to save their barn, and count their blessings as no person or animal was hurt in the fire.
How did you notice the fire was happening?
I had just got done scraping alleys
Okay.
with my skid steer, and I park it right. After 50 years of not having a heated shop, I finally have a heated shop.
Okay.
So I drove it in my heated shop and parked it. My other skid steer was already in, or the other skid steer was already in there. And I walked out. My feed wagon and tractor were sitting right in front of the barn here. And to feed my cows, I backed down to that end.
Okay.
And feed on the way back. By the time I had backed down to the end, I turned around to start feeding them and looked up. There was a cloud of smoke 80 feet in the air already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So something must have been in my skid steer, like some hay had gotten in by the motor or something. And I mean, it must have went up like...
Real fast.
Yeah. And that's where I kept some of my oil in that room. And as soon as it got going a little bit, and then of course the tires on the skid steer were black, burning black, and it was black smoke and white smoke. But the wind was coming out of that way, out of the northwest. Maybe, I don't know how fast, well, 10 miles an hour or whatever. Amy just happened to be coming out of the house to talk to me or something, and she got about halfway down to the barn and saw the smoke and ran back to the house and called the fire department. But I don't know. I mean, it was a half an hour before they got here, so.
Oh, really? So was there anything salvageable?
Well, luckily, I was salvageable.
Right.
I guess.
So.
And our cows.
Okay.
Cows, there were no cows in the barn.
Oh, okay.
They all, like I said, I was just feeding them. And they were coming up to eat, but they had been out of the barn. And they didn't seem to know how to react to the smoke. They were just kind of running around like I don't know. They came up in here. I mean, this was smoky up in here, but they came running up in this corner here, stood for a couple minutes, and then they decided to run back. And then we got a hold of them and got them back out behind, on the north side of the barn where the wind was blowing it away from them.
Oh, okay.
And no, we didn't lose any animals at all. Maybe a few mice.
When was the barn originally built?
Well, we don't really know. We've lived here for, 35 years or whatever?
It's pieces.
Yeah.
The old
The
barn,
original barn was probably 70 years old. And then we added on different various times, I guess. And
I don't even remember the years we had it on that piece, and then we had it on that piece.
yeah, so if it would have happened a couple of years ago or whatever, we probably would have had 220 cows locked in the barn.
Oh, really?
And I don't know if we could have gotten to get them out or not. Probably not. I mean, it came on so fast that I couldn't believe it.
And it wasn't even particularly windy that day either. I mean, it was
It
a
must
breeze,
have been just
but
windy enough. It was almost perfect amount of wind, I think, wasn't windy enough.
we haven't yet figured out why the red barn didn't burn down.
Yeah.
The firefighters were working from the other side of the barn because it was so smoky on this side. They couldn't even work from the front. They had to go around back. So we don't really know how the red barn didn't burn down.
Because you have a whole bunch of hay in it then, the way it looks?
Straw.
It started. There's like a little hole that burned through, but they were up in the
They must
hay
have got
loft
there
up
just
there.
in time before, because it wouldn't have taken much to have ignited that.
In your office, you had all your showing awards and stuff?
Yeah, and all our records. You know, we had the computer in there, and then I always keep all my breeding stuff in the computer and on a piece, in a notebook, but it was laying right beside so all my, I don't know what any of my heifers are sired by exactly.
I mean, we had handwritten, all that stuff would have been, we always thought in case the computer goes down, we at least have it handwritten.
Right.
Yeah, we were pretty surprised. Laylee's trying to pull some stuff out of their records, but they didn't really have, they can't seem to gain access to it. We just need our computer, so.
So, McKenna, what are your thoughts since you are the next generation coming up?
I guess, I don't know. I feel like my goal would be to rebuild something here. I mean, it might not be in the near future, the next year or two, but I think sometime in the next couple years, my goal would be to rebuild something smaller, just enough to have max of probably 40, 50 cows and get something nice and put another robot in.
With all that's going on with the creamery, she spends a lot of time at the creamery. We spend a lot of time like delivering for the creamery and doing farmers markets and just a lot. We're all away from the farmer quite a bit, so we feel like, you know, we've gotten used to what the robot can do for us while we're pursuing all these other options, you know. So to go back into milking in a parlor or something would be really difficult. I've never been, fortunately, had never been involved in a fire of any kind before, and yeah, it was just amazing to me how quickly it went. You know, it was just incredibly fast.
Yeah.
And I walked out of the house to get something out of the pickup, and I saw some smoke coming out of one of the openings there, and I thought, well, what the heck's going on? But by the time I got about halfway down here, I saw flames coming out of the roof. I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do about that except call the fire department. And went back up and called the fire department, and by that time he got done feeding the cows and drove the tractor up there, and we couldn't hardly see the barn already. But
Yeah, like I said, I backed down to the end, turned around, and I mean, it takes me a minute to back down there. And I'm pretty sure I got right out of the skid steer because I had just come through here with a skid steer. These gates were open, so I just went right to the tractor and backed it in and tried them. And by the time I got turned around, I looked up here, and there was a cloud of smoke 80 feet up in the air, and black. And
well, there was so much, you know, it was weird because I said, and I know nothing about fires, but I said I felt like there was an accelerant. It went so fast, but there was all kinds of diesel fuel and oil and stuff sitting in that room, so it basically did have an accelerant when it got started. It just, whew.
Well, like any shop, right?
Yeah,
Any
yeah.
shop has that stuff in it.
yeah,
But like you said too, like you're lucky Gary got out. Like he wasn't in it when it started on fire.
Since 1999, Dairy Star has been hearing farmer stories and sharing through the medium of newspapers. Now you can expect the same information on dairystar.com, the Milk Break newsletter, and the Dairy Delivery, a podcast adding more conversations from your paper to a brand new audio format.
Can only imagine the feelings they were having when they walked outside and saw the smoke billowing from their barn and knowing what kind of effect that can have on them. So good luck for them to how to rebuild and go on from here. And if you're interested in reading more on that story, you can look online at dairystar.com and find the headline, Fire Destroys Blaze Dairy Barn. And Blaze is spelled Blase. In our next story, Fischer Valley Dairy welcomed more than 300 students to its farm earlier this month. As part of the Food for America event on behalf of the Plymouth FFA chapter, John Fischer welcomed students to his farm to help them find out where their food comes from and what farmers do to produce the food people eat every day.
John, today you're hosting the FFA Food for America event again. Can you tell me a little bit about this event?
Well, it's kind of an annual event put on by the Plymouth FFA, and they bring out the area kids from that are in third grade and 4K, and it comes up to be about 400 kids that come out every year out here.
Nice. That's a lot of kids.
Oh yeah.
And they go through different stations, right? Well, during their time here, what are some of the things they get to see and do?
Yeah, they go through 9 different stations, and we got like a petting zoo that they can see chickens and sheep and goats and rabbits and steers and hogs, just about everything as far as the petting zoo goes. And then they'll tour the parlor where we milk the cows, and they'll also go out to the barn, and they'll be shown what we feed them and how the cows live day to day.
And how many years has your family been hosting the Food for America event?
Well, we've been probably off and on for the last, I'd say 20 years. So, but now that we have 2 granddaughters in Plymouth FFA, we've been hosting it now for the last 5-6 years straight. So that's okay. That gives us a good excuse to clean the place up once a year.
Great. And what are some of the other reasons you like to host the kids and have them come out here?
Oh, it's just a fun time. To see the kids come out all excited about seeing the animals. And then one of their favorite things is to get up in a tractor and get their picture taken from Ma or Grandpa and just pretend they drive a tractor for a while. It's just a fun experience.
And you have a grandson here visiting with his third grade class today, right?
Yep, that's right. He's a quite the little entrepreneur. He showed the kids his 22 fair chickens, and he's got some. He's new this year. He's got a couple of turkeys, and he's got a couple of ducks to show at the fair this year. So come fair time, he's going to be a busy little guy.
I bet. Sounds like it. And you said that your farm is going to be celebrating its centennial anniversary this year, correct?
Yep. Grandma bought the original farm in 1926, and it was passed down to my dad. And in 97, it was passed down to me. So it's been in the family for 100 years.
That's amazing. And now I understand your daughter Sarah and her husband Adam are going to be taking it over this June, correct?
June 1st, we're hoping to get the milk check signed over to their name so they can take over the paperwork.
Well, that's very exciting. And so you were blessed with a beautiful day of weather today. It's sunny and clear blue skies. What are you hoping these kids walk away learning today? If they could kind of take away one nugget of information, what would that be?
Well, the kids nowadays are so disconnected from the farm that they have no clue where their food comes from. So if they just take away one thing, where egg comes from, it's not from the grocery store shelf. It actually comes from a chicken. So
Very good. And is there anything else you'd like to share about Fischer Valley Dairy, or anything you're especially proud of with your dairy operation?
Well, we've always tried to be community orientated. I've served on many boards and this and that. And now lately, the last, I think it's been 8 years, we've been hosting a little, a baking contest at the Sheboygan County Fair that the contestants have to use at least 2 dairy products in their baked goods that they get judged on, and we offer the first, second, and third prize. First prize is $75, second prize is $50, and third prize is $25. So we get quite a few contestants. Last year, I believe it was 14 people baked cheesy beer bread. And now this year it's going to be, oh boy, what's it going to be? I forgot.
Well, I'm sure it'll be something delicious, like the cheesy beer bread sure sounds yummy.
Yeah. Oh, sticky buns. That's what it's going to be this year.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So you're involved a lot with the Sheboygan County Farm Bureau, and you're also a Plymouth FFA alumni. So like you said, really getting involved in the community. So it must be nice to see the newest generation of Plymouth FFA kids coming through here and helping. I heard there's over 30 kids here that running the stations. What does that kind of mean to you to see that next generation? You know, as an alumni yourself, what does that mean to you to see them here promoting the farm?
Well, it's always refreshing to see the next generation come in and take interest in what we do out here and get involved in farming. You probably know this more than I do. What percentage of Wisconsin jobs are actually affiliated with farming? It's one. I forget what it is. Is it 1 out of 5, or it's quite high.
Yes. Yeah,
So
it is.
It's almost impossible to not be in some type of farming enterprise in Wisconsin.
What are your neighboring farm practices from sustaining the land for generations to come? What are some similarities between a farm in Wisconsin to Minnesota and across the Midwest and beyond? These are all questions you'll get answered through not only a newspaper, the Milk Break email newsletter, social media from Dairy Star, but now a podcast, The Dairy Delivery. Our reporters are on the farm hearing stories, asking questions, and bringing you the conversations. Now can be heard all right here on Dairy Delivery, found on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Certainly a lot of advocacy events happening across different states in the Midwest, whether it was FFA or 4-H or Farm Bureau events. Cool to see it all bring together a lot of people. You can find that story in our Day in the Life section or find the headline online at A Day in the Life of the Fischer Family. Another conversation today has us talking with Rufus Musser, the third of Milton, Iowa. Rufus moved to Milton, where he started a dairy farm. After farming with his wife and children for 10 years, Musser wanted a way to provide another market for the small family farms in his area. And there, the Milton Creamery was born.
Let's get started about Milton Creamery. It started in 2006 with you guys. Was your focus always on small farms when you had the idea to start this creamery?
Yeah, the idea was birthed by two Amishmen showing up on our doorstep, and they were trying to get a settlement started here 20 miles southwest of us. And so the focus was trying to get a foothold in the dairy business, which things kind of evolved and we got more people involved, but the focus was always on small family farms.
So when you wanted to start the creamery aspect of it and cheese making, did you have experience making cheese before? Was it something that you learned? Did you hire somebody to make the cheese? Like, kind of what was that process like?
So no, I had no experience on cheese making. Had an interest in specialty, and we had done research for 4 years. One of my focus was when we tried to put a group together to do the research that we have to have interested people. You can't just vote somebody onto a board someplace and they're not convinced that there is crawdads in the creek. You're not going to find crawdads if you don't believe that there's some here, and you're going to look at the right places. So with that, we started doing research and we connected with some consultants and people in the industry. And we were told that we can teach you to make cheese.
And so it kind of started, like you said, you had the Amish stop in. You were kind of looking for an avenue maybe to get off the dairy farm a little bit, but it also opened up an opportunity to provide your community with jobs and premium milk prices. Like you guys being so far south in Iowa, that's not what we consider dairy country, like you and I talked about the other day. Why was it important to kind of have that self-sustainability for your community?
So the Amish and the Mennonite community here back in 2006, we were doing okay, but we're very agricultural based. And so if we go into that time era and even earlier. There was not much employment opportunity for the young people in the community. It has drastically changed in the last 20 years to the point that it's an issue where we never anticipated. So yeah, the opportunity to spread the idea, expand the idea on what Prairie Farms is doing, and being able to maybe grow into a premium market and doing a great job and giving the local people an opportunity for jobs in milk market, etc. Because I'm a strong believer that a little bit of competition is really good out there. Some of the small upstart businesses, as they grow, they create opportunities, and we just bounce off of each other.
For sure. How big, or what is the average size of the farms you work with? Like, how many cows are they milking?
We're from 25 to 80 cows.
Okay.
And I'd say the average is probably in that 40-ish range.
And is it mostly Amish and Mennonite farms that you're working with?
Yeah.
Through our conversations, obviously on Friday and then right now, you're a very optimistic guy. You're very positive with what you're doing. How does that, one, help you with maybe bringing in farmers to your creamery, and two, help with continuing to get your product out there and just meet more people and kind of have those good interactions? Like, why is that important? And have you always been kind of this optimistic and this positive around things?
My father worried about me. he too much optimistic. I'm going to get myself into trouble. And he was optimistic, but a bit more realistic. So I'm probably, part of me is overly optimistic, but we try to be realistic. And gloom and doom doesn't sell. Gloom and doom doesn't get you where you want to go. Because if you are just looking at the negative side of life, people don't like being around gloom and doom. So I think it's a very, very much part of what we do is we don't want to sell hype, but we want to sell reality. And let's dwell on the positive side of reality.
You can find that article online at dairystar.com under the headline, Small Farms Making Big Cheese. That was a fun one because I was at a Hy-Vee one day and I was just walking around the specialty cheese section, and I saw this block of cheese that had a bright yellow sticker on it that was like milk produced from small family farms. And I looked it up and saw it was Milton Creamery from Iowa. And I had started doing background research to try to figure out, what their story was and everything. And then I was about to call them, and I don't know about you, believe it or not, being on a podcast, I'm still kind of an introvert and I don't like calling people all the time. So I was kind of putting it off. So I was doing more background research and looked them up on Facebook and happened to see that they were actually going to be in La Crosse at that same Hy-Vee that day. So I told my wife about it, and she ended up taking the kids, and I drove down to Hy-Vee and met Rufus face to face and had a conversation with him there, kind of introduced myself. And then I got to talk with him on Tuesday to do the whole conversation, have the whole interview with him. But it was really cool that how, I don't know if serendipitous is the right word, but how we kind of met up with each other there before doing the actual interview. So that was cool. Long story short, you can find that story online. Small farms making big cheese on Dairy Star. And another story today brings more people to their farm as the Jams welcome the 5th grade class from Wilmar Public Schools. The Jams farm, Kojo Dairy, has welcomed students to the farm for the last 14 years. Along with the 5th grade group, Kojo Dairy has hosted groups from other school districts, senior care facilities, and church groups over the years.
Okay, Joe, you had a lot of visitors today. Can you tell me about the event that you guys hosted at your farm?
Yes, we hosted the Litchfield, Minnesota high school, or the 5th graders. They came. This is the second year they have participated in our dairy tour of the Kojo Dairy. We break up in 3 different groups. We do a group in the parlor demonstrating our milking. Then we do a hayride around the farm. They get to see the cows inside the free stalls to our feeding center. And then our last stage is we kind of have a learning center where they learn different what we vaccinate with to preventative vaccines to our rumination collars and stuff like that. Yes, and then tomorrow will be another group from Wilmer, Minnesota out here.
And you've hosted other groups as well to your farm, correct?
Correct. Through the past 15 years, I suppose, we have done several groups through the years. We have done our local school, which is ACGC, which they come out in the fall. We have a care program with elderly people. Pretty much they go on the hayride and we kind of talk to them and kind of go from there. We do have another group that comes out. This will be their second year. And these kids are from different, I'm not really sure what the name of it is, but they come from different parts of the state and they are through, it's a work program and they do different resources and stuff, and they come out and look at the farm. And we also, it's kind of word of mouth how these organizations have got to us, and we have enjoyed doing it through the years. So.
And why do you feel the need to reach out and let all these people come and tour your farm?
We have the feeling, especially for the fifth graders, or I guess it doesn't need to be fifth, but the younger generation, if we can get their mindset that dairy farming isn't such a bad thing, and kind of as they get older and move on in their life, that if somebody's saying, boy, if they see something in the newspaper or article that they're like, well, we were there and we never seen anything terrible like that at this farm that we seen. Hopefully we can change one mind, two minds, or, half a dozen, and maybe we can start with that and keep going from there. So that's a big reason we do that. My dad's been in different stages of organizations and very involved in the dairy industry on the other hand too.
And just real briefly tell us about how many cows you guys farm and what you...
Yes. So currently we're milking right at about 1,000, give or take. Traditionally we started 1959 and started for my grandpa, and we have expanded all the way through the years. Started with 2 cows and now to 1,000. And pretty much keep expanding, keep growing a little bit here and there. And this year we are adding another dry cow calving facility. So we try to keep up with the data and technology as time goes on.
Read about Kojo Dairy welcoming visitors to their farm under the headline Planting Seeds of Knowledge on dairystar.com. Talking about planting, this season is continuing, maybe with some rain here and there, but it's good to see some plants popping out that are in the Midwestern area. Definitely look better than some areas, so we hope that your planting season is going good. But here on the podcast, our final story today has us sitting down with Brian Reisinger. Reisinger grew up on a dairy farm in Sauk County, Wisconsin. He used his family's farming experience as inspiration for his recently published book named Land Rich, Cash Poor, My Family's Hope and the Untold History of the Disappearing American Farmer. It's a winner of the 2025 Book of the Year from the Farm Foundation.
So we're a fourth generation farm. We started in 1912 with my great grandparents, and we were a dairy farm for more than 100 years. We were a century dairy farm. And my dad sold the cows, the herd, in spring of 2021 in an effort to diversify the farm as my sister worked to take over. So he's still farming, she's working to take over. And what the farm's doing now is raising custom heifers for other operations, raising beef for consumers, and then cash cropping. And, like any farm family, it's a family business. And, even as I'm doing my writing and other work, I'm helping on the outside from the business side. And when I'm back, they throw me in a tractor and I'm the unskilled labor, asking my sister, what do you need? And it's an effort where we're working to figure out what the future looks like, just like all those farms out there that I get the chance to write about and talk to and share the stories of. So that's an honor. And, at this point, it's just been a situation where it's been shocking for me to see how much our family's story over those 4 generations, from the Depression through the farm crisis, through globalization, COVID, everything else, tracks what's going on in farming. And that's true of all farm families, is what I've realized. Our family took a moment to pick our head up from the work and tell our story, but every farm family is dealing with this. And not just the weather, but the way that, economic conditions lead to upheaval and all kinds of other issues throughout history. It's amazing how you can see the big issues that have impacted farming and what's going on in agriculture, how they track what's going on with families on the ground. So that's kind of us and how we fit into that bigger picture.
Obviously, growing up on the farm meant a lot to you if you're still kind of carving out a career farm adjacent and even more farm connected to yet.
Right.
So what did that kind of mean to you?
For me, I knew I was growing up in a special place, and I know everybody, yourself included, who grew up on a farm understands an element of this. I knew I grew up in a special place because I got to be out there with my dad every morning doing what he was doing, and other kids didn't really get to do that. And so I understood it was special, and I also understood it was becoming more special because it was becoming more rare. I'd be out in the farmyard. I mean, how old do you have to be to get your dad a wrench? Maybe 4 years old. I mean, I remember being that old, and you'd hear the pickup trucks come in the gravel driveway with the gravel popping under the tires. A window would come down, and they'd be talking about this farm went under, this farm sold. So I had a feeling that what my dad did was special. I think even in a way that maybe goes beyond how most kids think what their dad does is special when they're young, and it meant everything to me in terms of who I was becoming. I also struggled with whether I should take over the farm or not, being the first eldest son. And, I ended up being the first eldest son in our family in 4 generations who didn't take over the farm. And I was also the first one who went to college. And so I struggled with, how proud my parents were and how grateful I was and how guilty I felt at the question of whether I should be taking over the farm. And in that way, honestly, what the farm means to me grew, because I went down through my career and benefited from the farm boy work ethic and other things, and knew that I was so lucky, as I learned more about the world, to have grown up in a place not only where you learn to work, but you learn about the cycle of life, the circle of life. You learn about, the blessings that can come out of the soil. You learn what it means to work close to the land and close to animals, and all the values that people learn. And so it just became more and more important to me as a result of that. So now that I've come full circle and had a chance to tell our story and be connected in my own way, I'm more grateful for that than ever. I wouldn't have been suited to carry the farm forward in the way that my sister is, but to have a chance to grow up there still means everything. And to get to tell our stories and talk with farm families across the country is all the more meaningful.
Now, getting into the book a little bit, I read online. Obviously, you got that blurb about what it's about, but can you tell me more what it's about from your opinion?
Yeah. So, when I pursued my writing career off the farm, I wanted to answer that question that'd been dogging me ever since I was fetching wrenches for my dad in the farmyard, which is why are these farms disappearing? What's going on? And so I went out to answer that question. And what I found in my career in journalism and then public policy and then doing my own consulting and writing is that we have an economy that has left our farms behind. And so in Land Rich, Cash Poor, we examine the hidden areas of history that are driving that disappearance, and we weave that with my family's 4 generation story from the Great Depression on up through today. And so you see all the different major forces that are wiping out farms over the course of the past century that still impact us and are still woven into all the modern hot button issues. And we also share the raw personal stories of, weather that blesses and threatens, and, farmland accidents and other tragedies, and economic upheaval, and all the things that a farm family experiences. And what I saw as I did this is how closely those things track. You can look at a point in time in history and the economic or political or technological issue that's driving farm disappearance. And we saw an experience in our family that paralleled that. And I think as I've talked with farm families across the country, I have found that to be true. Our farm families are living a beautiful yet tragic history, where the hope and the hardship go hand in hand. And just like that's the case in the fields when you're putting in your spring planting and coming around to fall harvest, it's also true of our country's history, for better and for worse.
Now, I'm always looking to try to find new ways to get into reading. I keep convincing myself that if I buy more books, I'm going to actually start doing it. But this is one that's definitely it's on my list that I want to pick up to read behind it. One, because now that I know Brian, I know his story behind it. Two, it's a very interesting topic to see how he has found out how history kind of coincides with his family's farm and how the hardships they faced on the farm were directly related to what was going on in the world at the time, and a whole lot of things. It was really cool. Read about Brian's book and the inspiration behind it at dairystar.com. Look for the headline, Dedicated to Dad. We've got a whole lot more stories coming your way this issue. This issue's Pride in Our Dairy Roots section focuses on Ryan Dennis. Dennis had dreamed of becoming the 4th generation on his family farm, but economic issues and a series of accidents caused him to change paths. He went on to earn a doctorate degree from the National University of Ireland, Galway.
We also have a few breakfast on the farm stories. Like we've mentioned before, a lot of advocacy efforts really highlighting those farms that are hosting events this summer. One focuses on the Lexbold family in Goodhue County, Minnesota, and the other is with the Hokumer family in Manitowoc County, Wisconsin. Lexbold's, a 4th-generation farm, is hosting their event June 5th. The Hokumer family is a 7th-generation farm that will host its breakfast on June 14th. I know I have a few that I'm planning to attend in the state of Wisconsin. Maybe I'll get over to Minnesota as well.
Ooh, there you go. So I know Goodhue County is right near their eastern side of the eastern side of Minnesota. So I know it might be one that I could venture over to as well, being over here on the western side of Wisconsin. So we'll see what happens. We also have an article, like we kind of talked about earlier, previewing Daisy Zimmerman, Isabella Schiffler, and Jade Smith, who were named finalists for Minnesota's Princess K of the Milky Way. In all, there are 10 finalists for the title of Princess K, which will be crowned on August 26th at the Minnesota State Fair. We also want to extend a congratulations to Anastasia Pohl, who will be the 79th Alice in Dairyland, representing and promoting Wisconsin's diverse agricultural industry throughout the next year.
This issue's Our Side of the Fence focuses on cover crops. We talked to people from around our readership area about why they started to use those cover crops, what they learned through their experiences, and some of the benefits they see. Find more stories in next week's Dairy Star newspaper, then come back here to the Dairy Delivery on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts to hear more of those stories. If you like what we're sharing, feel free to rate and subscribe. And if you or someone you know is interested in being featured in the Dairy Star or on Dairy Delivery, reach out at dairydelivery@dairystar.com so we can continue sharing all dairy all the time.